Bitcoin is very difficult to chart from traditional technical analysis concepts right now. It won't be forever. It won't be difficult forever, but it is difficult now because of what I explained to you. Number one, it's still in price discovery mode. This is why Bitcoin often blows modern day technical analysis concepts out of the water and surprises everybody. All right. Because in price discovery mode, the traditional things that form these technical patterns are not there as powerfully. In addition to that, Bitcoin is truly experiencing a supply crisis, and you can't chart a supply crisis. All right, in a way. So traditional technical analysis things applied to Bitcoin. I'm not going to say they have zero relevance, but the relevance is a lot less than, let's say, an Apple, who's got price discovery. Its price is stabilized by price discovery. You have a balance of buyers and sellers. You have a more ubiquitous idea or belief that Apple has value. When something is seeking price discovery, you'll have violent moves on both sides that destroy common technical analysis techniques that have been built on things that have already discovered their price, have already achieved price discovery. And so I pay a lot less attention. And guys, look, I believe I can chart with the best of them. Been doing it for over 3 decades. I believe I can chart with the best of them. I can hold my own with anyone out there as far as a technical analysis. And I will tell you, as being, in my opinion, one of the world's best, my opinion, all right? I hope that doesn't offend anybody. I will tell you that I pay less attention to those things. And I believe I can chart better than most. Right? So I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Should we never sell Bitcoin in our life? This question, or my response, or both, is very nuanced. It is my belief that you should not be so quick to sell what is sound into what is less sound. That just doesn't make sense. You don't sell what is strong and change what is strong for what is weak. All right? That doesn't make sense. So, for instance, someone in Venezuela, where their currency has collapsed, the Venezuelan bolivar, right? That currency has collapsed. You would never find someone in Venezuela who says, wait a minute, let me take my dollars and change them back into bolivars because I think the dollar is short-term overbought here. Never in a million years will a Venezuelan living in Venezuela change dollars back into bolivars. For what? It's ridiculous. Okay? So if we assume that Bitcoin is one of, if not the most sound forms of money in existence today, to change it or to sell it back into a weaker asset, a weaker form of money, doesn't really make sense in a lot of different scenarios. So generally speaking, no, I am not a seller of Bitcoin. I am a hedger of Bitcoin when I believe it's overbought and due for a pullback based on the view of Bitcoin through the eyes of the US dollar. Okay, I am a hedger. If I were to need extra fiat, I would use that pristine asset as collateral to get a low interest loan. That's being smart. But let me just tell you this. The wealthy in this world do not sell sound assets. I'm going to repeat this. The wealthy in this world, when they get ownership of sound, solid assets, they don't sell, especially for weaker assets. And so I am generally not a seller. I have never, That's not true. Once I realized what Bitcoin was, I've never sold a Satoshi. I have no plans of selling a single Satoshi. I have plans of borrowing against those Satoshis at some point in the future. I have plans of hedging myself to mitigate downside risk, but I have no plans of selling whatsoever. Now, that's me. I can't tell you what to do. All right. If I would just encourage that if you did consider selling, make sure it's something so incredibly life-changingly important, all right, that it's worth it for you. Your dream home, saving a loved one by paying for this expensive operation. It's gotta be something life-changing for you, in my opinion. When to consider buying hardware wallet for Bitcoin? My general rule is 3 times the value of the hardware wallet of your choice. So if your hardware wallet is $50 and you have assets that are 150 or more, it's time. Okay, so 3 times the value of the wallet of your choice. So go pick a wallet, get the price of that, pick one, get the price, and wait until you're 3 times, you have assets that you want to hold, not that you want to trade in and out of. If you're trading in and out of, it doesn't make sense to move it to cold storage, right? But if you say, no, I'm storing my value here for a while, you're going to move that off exchange. And once the amount that you want to store and lock away, all right, is 3 times the value of the wallet that you want, it's time to move that. All right, because in reality, all you have when your assets are on exchange is an IOU. And we're full of history where the IOUs have been taken, hacked, confiscated, mistakes have been made with it. I just want it in my possession. Okay? And so you don't really own it, truthfully, unless you have the key. And when you keep your value in the hands of someone else, okay, what you're really doing is saying, look, I have the value that I've given my life up for. I have gone out into the world and I have exchanged my energy, my life, my skill, my talent, the crowning jewel of who I am. I've exchanged who I am. And in exchange for this, in exchange for giving me, I receive value. This value I am giving to you. This is what you're saying when you keep your assets on exchange. I am transferring my essence into this item and I'm letting you hold it in your safe. I don't have the key. It's your safe. You have the key. Keep it for me. Now, most of you would not do that in real life, would you? Say, just keep it in your safe. I don't even have the key to it. I don't even have the combination. Just keep it for me. If you wouldn't do that in real life, why are you doing it now? Bitcoin in particular has come into existence as the first asset that gives everyone the ability to self-custody. You couldn't self-custody your stocks. You couldn't self-custody your bonds. Well, in the bearer bond days, you could. But bearer bonds were made illegal. So here's the first asset in a long time where you get the ability to self-custody. You used to be able to self-custody gold, but they made gold ownership illegal for decades to self-custody, right? So I don't want my value in someone else's vault where they have the combination. Not happening. Not happening with me. All right? Not if I have the ability to hold it. Now, it takes some responsibility to do this, but it also takes just as much responsibility to protect yourself when the asset is on exchange. Because how many people have you heard lost their crypto assets while being on the exchange? Millions of people. You know, if you've got two-factor authentication, if you've got your assets on exchange and you protect that, I've got two-factor authorization, yay, I'm protected. And that's two-factor authorization with your telephone number, with your cell number. that is, you might as well be, that might as well be a welcome sign to get your assets stolen. That's the number one way people think they're correct, they're protected. They got assets on a Coinbase, they got two-factor authentication linked to a text that goes to their cell phone. And that's the number one way people get their assets taken, because if someone hacks your email, they can gain access to your telephone account. And if they can convince someone at the telephone company that they're you, they can get a new SIM card. And now everything goes to them. And I've heard hundreds of scenarios where SIM card hacks have happened. It's probably the number one way people lose their assets. It's not Coinbase's fault. It's not Binance's fault. It's your fault. It's your fault for having two-factor authentication on a text, number one. It's your fault for not protecting yourself. You should not be using a Gmail. You should not be using a Yahoo, a Hotmail, number one. All right. You should not be leaving your assets on exchange if you have significant amounts that you're planning on holding.